Okay, well, this is going to be an interesting one. I've had a bit of an afternoon of it when my PC completely crashed. So I'm on my laptop, unfortunately. Doesn't help me. We'll normally have a couple of screens on the go, but it did an update and then that was it. So I spent about 2 hours trying to fix it, and that will be something I'm going to have to do next week now. Anyway, welcome back. Wasn't here obviously over Christmas, etc. So my last one that I did, if you remember, that was with Cheryl Walsh, who did the underwater pictures. And I did say at the time when I was on her show, when she was on my show, I should say, that I was going to order the tarot cards. Well, they actually came, as you can see. Did manage to order them, and also I'll show you what they're actually like, because they're limited edition, and they're quite amazing, amazing cards. Um, Beautifully done. There's 72, and as you can see there, I'll just come back a bit. You can see there too, and also as an example, every one is a different one of Cheryl's pictures. But in addition to that, I've got the limited edition calendar for 2025, which again is quite beautiful. So really superb, actually. So thanks very much for that, Cheryl. She sent me the calendar as a gift, which was very nice of her. Right, a few things to talk about. So first of all, of course, this is Flux Review TV, so there's a bit of Flux news to go through. There are the next exhibition, which tonight's guest is going to be part of, is in London from the 15th to 18th of May at the Bomb Factory. Submissions open now. I'm not sure at the moment. Lisa's on holiday. I'm not sure where the submissions are sitting at the moment, but I do know that she's currently going through them all. Quite a few people have already been told that they are in, which is good. The next part of that is that the Collectible Club is up and running. And probably next week I'll be able to give you quite a bit more detail on that, because Lisa will be back and I'll be able to get some info. And of course, Flux Review 11 is out. Flux Review 12 is currently being worked on, and you can get these at all decent stores like art galleries, WH Smith's, places like that, places that sell magazines, obviously. 200 pages plus. It's a brilliant piece of work in terms of art. Now, next week's guest. I can tell you about next 2 weeks' guest, actually. So next week's guest is Kevin Gavagan, who his work is really quite different. It's all about his emotions, about the fact that he grew up with Tourette's, and this is how he portrays kind of Tourette's makes him feel. It's quite stunning work, actually, and we will be going through that in quite a bit of depth next week. And then some of you might know, but Glyn Jewish interviewed me on his live YouTube channel last March, actually. And he's been my mentor, actually. I was really quite chuffed that he was coming on. Well, I've invited him on my show now. So actually, on the 30th, he'll be on this show having a chat, and I think it will be quite a bit of stuff that people won't know about him, hopefully, because we're going to be talking about his stuff that he's done outside of what everybody knows him for, which is a photographer, YouTuber, and educator. He's got a huge following, 290,000, I think, on YouTube. Huge following, and he's been going a long time. He won't mind me saying that, but he is absolutely brilliant. Really clever man. And that will be a really interesting interview. And of course, I look forward to every one, because I learned such a lot, which is very true of tonight's, actually. So before we bring our guest in, I've created a video, and What's interesting about this video is not just the artwork, but the actual music that I've used for it is actually Diannah herself. In this particular piece is from a band that she was in, which has a fabulous name. Rigid with Desire. What a name. So this is Diannah Lowry. Well, unbelievable. And that was also the lady in question singing as well, which is really fabulous. So, hello.
Hello.
So that's yeah, that was. I thought I did get your permission to use the music,
Of course.
and there is on on YouTube. There's quite a bit of it. That one in particular, I think, has had something like 12,000 views. So it's a big piece for you. We will get to that, but I think what is quite amazing is, and we have had a chat about this too, is there's a lot of musicians who end up going in the art direction. I had Rennie Pilgrim on earlier, back end of last year, big time DJ, now an artist. Now I've got you, big time performer in Australia, but also I think was the last album 2022. I think I saw. So not that long ago too, and you've probably got some new work coming up too. But art is the thing. So there's a real big thing, I think, of musicians and artists, that kind of link together. What would you put that kind of down to?
I think it's a conversation that's to be had with both the art and the music. So to paint a painting and to write lyrics and to write music are really pretty much the same thing. Some people say, well, it's two sides of the same coin, but I actually think it's the same coin. It's not, you know, when you paint a painting, you have an idea and you have the colors and you construct something. When you write a song, you have the lyrics and you have a melody. And in my mind, anyway, there's a color. There's always a color. And so I think color informs music, music informs color informs our painting. To me, it's all about the color.
I think you're absolutely right. And just to set the tone, actually, we've had a comment already. That is brilliant. So there's obviously, see, not just art,
Oh, we'll stop
music
now
too.
then. I'll just take off my glasses again.
Yep, I said to
said the
you, don't
good
worry about
stuff.
your glasses. I can read the comments out to you. But yeah, it was, and to be honest, I think that I think it's more that if you've got a creative brain, I almost feel like it doesn't matter what you end up doing. If it's creative, you will be creative. And I think obviously music, very, very creative, especially in your case as well, where you're writing your own songs and stuff. It leads on to the fact that you have got an imagination, which means you can see what you're kind of putting together, which I think is important. So let's go sort of back a bit now. Let's just sort of start from the beginning.
Oops.
In that, yes, well, I know that I mean, and some of those pictures at the end of the video, you did actually say were last century, but but I think what I'd like to ask is where does that art and that creativity come from? Is that coming from your parents or your grandparents, or is that, down the line somewhere? Do you come from a creative background?
Oh, really interesting question, and I don't know how to answer it, and there's possibly not enough time here, but um, my parents came from, they were migrants to Australia from the east of Europe during just after World War II, and they'd been through a lot. Um, and I think that just seeps through into the next generation.
Hmm.
Um, they weren't artists themselves, and in fact, they were very concerned about me pursuing a career that was perceived as being bohemian in their own background and could put them at risk. But times have changed. Australia was a very free thinking country, and I was just allowed to kind of explore my own creativity. So I'd always painted since a young age, and played guitar since a young age. My brother who was 10 years older, had a guitar, so I was playing that. So I was painting, playing guitar, and then I don't know. I don't know. It's just always something that I've had to do in order to kind of, you know, be in the world, if that makes sense.
And so, do you think that actually there's a bit of a rebellious streak in you there? Because the music, that side of it, you wanted to. I think as creatives, I feel anyway that there's a bit about leaving your mark, and and I think that's the way you do it, because that's where other people see your work, hear your music. But do you think there was a bit of? Do you think there's a little bit of that rebellious streak in you?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I thought so.
I yeah, there was I've always been anti-authority, and
Mm,
I kind of still am, and um yeah, the rebellious, the rebel thing is still strong, actually. I think once you've got that in you, and I think it actually informs, to me anyway, it informs my artistic practice and also my music.
mm.
um and I like to break boundaries that are set, and um, I mean, I know, for example, I could be raving on here, but a true artist is seen as having a particular style, and then they follow through on that. And I think if anyone's seen my work, I do both conservative landscapes and fairly sort of strange, not strange abstracts, but abstracts. And so I've kind of broken the mold, I think, in terms of that. So I've rebelled against what's even seen to be, that sort of lineage where I like to do both, and I'm allowing
Yeah,
myself to do both. Yeah.
okay, you do. There's no question that you do both, but I think that in each case, it's clear it's you.
Thank you,
I know.
thank you so much for saying that. I am so grateful,
Yeah,
because I think, yeah, that more and more people are saying that, and it makes me feel
mm,
very happy and comfortable in my practice.
yeah, because you do say about style. It's a similar thing with me. I've developed my style. My style of work is what it is. People know that's me, and it's a similar thing. With all think quite a lot, at least quite a lot of the artists, majority of the artists at Flux, in fact, probably all of them, have all got a distinctive style that when you come to their work, it's them. And I think that's sort of just shows just how good they are. And I also I don't subscribe to the, oh, no, 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 you haven't found your style. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I believe that more likely is that it's not that you haven't found your style, it's that somebody else hasn't recognized it as being your style. I think that's more likely, and it tends to be the people who can't paint or can't draw or whatever it is that tend to, they
I
come out
love
with
it.
it. No,
I think you're
yeah.
amazing. You're
I just find that really quite interesting. So talking of which, let's have a look, because I've got some of your work now. We're gonna have a little bit of chat about these, because you've got a series, kicks off with this one that I've got here, which is Bejeweled, but then you've got opaline, topaz, sapphire, ammonite. So we've got a whole series here. So first of all, because they are actually all kind of similar in color palette, this is a question I always ask: what determines your color palette? And in this particular case, is it because of the title, as the title suggests, what the actual background is behind the series?
absolutely. So last year I was in France. I went to Karnak, where all the massive stones are and so on. And
Yeah. Hmm.
there was a little shop just outside of Karnak that it was like an Aladdin's cave of gemstones and jewels and so on. And I found it fascinating. I've always loved the look of gemstones, their sparkle and their intense color, the transparency of it. I don't wear jewelry myself. It doesn't suit me, but I really love the look of it. And this
Hmm.
shop in particular really inspired me. I bought one of the stones and looked at it, and there were all this sort of reflections and transparency. And I thought I really, really like to paint that. And
Yeah.
so this last series has been very much the same palette of transparent Prussian blues and golden greens and zinc white, trying to get that sort of look of a transparent gemstone. And I've really loved doing it. It's very different for me, this style, and
I think,
painting
yeah,
regular
I think
face.
it's very clever. I mean, just going back to that first one, you know, you can tell, and this is another question I always ask as well. A title is very important. I mean, it's some of the things that I've not understood easily is when the title is just actually doesn't bear any relation to what the picture is, and I can never understand how that happens, because uh, it's a bit like when you write a song, you know what the subject's going to be about, see, and you know what the title's likely to be. It's a similar sort of
Yeah.
thing. And same, with these, you can tell that that's what the background is. And of course,
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
yeah, and therefore, I mean, this one,
Oh,
Topaz,
that's my
uh,
favorite. I love
yeah,
it.
they're very clever, actually, how you've put these together. Which and I sort of said this. I've said this so many times. This is a very interesting show for me to do, really, because look, I'm a photographic artist. I'm not. I don't paint. I used to, long time ago. Used to do pen and ink drawings and oil paints and all of that stuff. But then I found my thing with what I do now, and conveying the actual what the message, if you like, or the story behind a picture is something that's really very important. If you, I don't know if you've seen my interview with Paolo. You obviously know him,
Yes, I've met him. Yeah.
Wizard of Art.
Yes. And
But
words.
he's got he's got amazing stories in his abstract, and the minute you start talking to him, you absolutely get it. What I've found from this is, looking at your work, is how you have got this style with the that you're looking at here, the abstract stuff, but then there's a slight abstract element to your landscapes, but the landscapes are seriously powerful. We'll get to those in a minute, but people that are watching will understand exactly what I mean when we get to those. And you can see here, this one, Sapphire, you can see exactly what it is you're trying to convey. And now I find these really, really, really excellent. I'm very chuffed with them. Do you do prints of your paintings?
I do, but and I have go to my website. I do
Yeah,
prints, but
yeah,
with these ones, I just so loved them. I took them, and I often do this. I took them to the framers so quickly because I wanted to see them framed. I didn't actually
mm.
have them photographed for prints or anything, so they're pretty much one-offs. But yeah, yes, I do have prints, but not of these ones, I'm afraid.
No, and there's quite a few artists don't, but I do believe that prints make your work more affordable to people that can't afford
Mm,
an
mm.
original. Uh, but the best part of all is that's on someone's wall, and someone else is going to see it who might well be able to afford an original. So it's quite important actually to have
Yeah, I
prints.
need to do the prints. It's just that when you
Mm,
do something you love and you think, oh my God, it's going to be, I love that. You take it off to the framers, well,
yeah.
I do. You're a photographer, so you can photograph them and so on. I'm not, I can't kind of, I can do it on my phone and then I have to pay a fortune for someone to scan it or photograph it. And then I think, what the heck, just get it framed. Um,
Well, it's interesting because I've got a couple of Leslie Oldacre prints. Can't afford the originals, but I have got a couple of prints because I love it. And so, I wanted them on the wall, and it does make your work affordable. And I think
I know,
it's very,
yeah.
it's definitely worth
Yeah, I need
sort
to
of
be more
moving into.
patient. I'm not very good with patience. I need to, yeah, hold off. Don't go to the framers. Get them photographed. Make them into
So,
prints.
um, so you're indicating there that you take your work to a framers, because actually that's just as important as the original painting in the first place. How good the frame is can make or break a picture as well, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Are you acrylic? Are you oil? What is your medium?
So these ones that we're looking at are mixed media, so they're acrylic, but with some crayons, not just normal crayons, but they're a French crayon that there's two types. There's one that's water mixable and one that isn't. The water mixable one is the first layer, and then the other one that is more sturdy and permanent is on the second layer. And
And is
so, yeah, basically acrylic. However, a lot of my work is cold wax and oil as well. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I slip between it. The more I progress in this kind of course of my being a visual artist, I'm experimenting with different techniques, and they're very different. And the surfaces, the substrates you use are very different.
Hmm.
Um, so I work with cradle board, I work with oil and cold wax. I work with various different media and acrylic. Acrylic is easy. I find acrylic easy. And so there's a lot more chance for creativity because you're in the headspace where you're quite relaxed and doing it. Um, I mean, I
How
love all.
many?
Yeah.
So how many paintings would you work on at any one time? Do you just work on one, or do you three or
No,
four, or?
no. If I work on one, I end up with a mess behind me. That is not a great feeling. It's just that I couldn't get one to fit behind me. That is not great that I'm stuck with it. However, I normally these days now, a few years, into it, I probably work on three or four at the same time,
Hmm.
and I find it. You have to do that, otherwise you get very critical of one. You look at one and you think, no, it's not working. In the old days, I'd paint over it. So now I think, not working, put it over there, turn it against the wall, and now start on something else, maybe a different size, a different substrate, perhaps move from
Hmm.
acrylic to oil and wax, coal wax, or whatever. So I've learned to listen to my muse, to be open to it and to just say, what do I feel like doing today? If that didn't work yesterday, put it aside. So I work on quite a few things at the same time. A bit like music, you have songs that go on in your head at the same time, and you never really finish one. You kind of think, yeah, that needs more melody, more harmony. Let's move on to the next song. It's the
Yeah.
same process.
So I was going to say that as well. So um, I have to have a few on the go because your eyes get used to what you're looking at. And, I've had instances where oh, great, finished that one, lovely. And then I've looked and seen something in there that shouldn't be there. And you think, oh, how have I missed that? And I can relate that. So if you are mastering a song, headphones on, or, your speakers,
Yes.
and listening, mastering a song, your ears get used to it. You have to stop, go
Mm.
away, go for a walk, come back, and then suddenly you hear all those things that you weren't hearing before. So you get that, and I think that happens art wise as well. There are some people that can start painting, drawing, whatever they do, and they just go zoom all the way to the end, finish, thanks very much, let's move on. But I think we all end up being our own worst critics, and you can always just keep finding something that you're not happy with, and you get to a point where you just have to go, okay, that's enough. I'm ready. That's enough. So um, if you're let's now move on to some of the landscapes. There's some crackers here. I absolutely love them. We'll start off with this one, which is Dartmoor. Um, and is this again? You see that although this is probably acrylic, it's got a real oil look to it to me.
So there's a couple of stories going on here. My father, that was Eastern European, that moved to Australia as a migrant, he never made it to England. He kind of left Eastern Europe and went to Australia. But what he always wanted to do was to see the English landscape. And he used to watch all the English shows, like what was the Vets one in Yorkshire? You know what I mean? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, he'd watch a lot of English shows. And he used to say, "Look at," in his Viennese voice, "Look at the land, look at that." And he passed away, and I moved here um, sort of before he passed away. But I always think of my father when I got to Dartmoor. I live very close, and when I look at that landscape, I think Dad would have loved that. And
Yeah,
and so I paint it, and there's a lot of emotion in there with me, but also it's not just my dad there with me, it is the sheer beauty of the vista. And so um, I it and I have to say it's that coupled with the fact that when I moved to this country from Australia, I felt like I'd moved into a Turner painting. And so I guess when I go on to Dartmoor, I feel as though I'm in a Turner painting and my father is there with me. There's a lot of emotion, and I just love painting these landscapes of Dartmoor.
mm,
I don't paint the tours, I don't paint any specific scene. I paint my experience of the place. And they mean a lot to me, these landscapes. They really do. Yeah, the light, you can be on Dartmoor and you can blink your eye, and within a blink of an eye, the light changes. Um,
yeah,
and so I love the place. I go up there and I don't sketch because I can't get comfortable up there. I just soak it in. And but they're very different to my abstracts. This very much confuses people, but to me, it's the same coin. That's me, abstract and landscapes. But boy, do I love that place.
yeah. And it's in I particularly like this.
Me
Um,
too.
I love the drama, and and people who know me and have, if anybody's actually been to any of my talks that I do, I talk a lot about light. So my work is all around light. It's not about anything else. It's the way that if you think of people like Caravaggio or Vermeer, that's what they put into their work. They want you to look in a particular place they light it, you know, and that's the drama in this one in particular is all about that light that you've put in. um and it's yeah, absolutely love that. And the other one being this one that we've just spoken about, that the light in that picture similarly is quite amazing, and equally in this one. So you've got a real way of putting light into a painting, which uh, and what that does is the viewer, potential buyer, whatever, gets drawn in, and that's what light will do. It draws you in, draws you in. But
I
then,
can I can see that as a photographer, those yeah, because photography and light is so
mm,
you're playing with light, aren't you? And I can
mm,
see why you like those. And I really love those too. And I have to say that
mm,
that whole thing about landscape to me is about light because especially in this country, as I was saying, like with the light, the softness and there's a moisture in the light and the way that it lands on the ground and the way that there has pressure at the top and there's virgo, you know, the rain that doesn't actually hit the ground. I just love it. I feel a very emotional attachment to it. And I know my
yeah,
father is there with me when he's watching.
yeah,
He loves
and
it
it,
too. Yeah.
I don't know, it sort of gives you a bit of a Wuthering Heights type feel, if
Yeah.
you mean, if you can understand my sort of reference there, because of the atmosphere that you've actually generated within the
It's
painting.
wild. It's
Absolutely
punk.
fab.
It's a
Yeah,
punk
it's fab.
atmosphere.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then, of course, uh, something a little bit different compared to what we've
Yeah.
just looked at,
Yeah.
which got much more of an abstract feel to it.
Yes.
Even though it's still a landscape, still got a bit of an abstract feel to it, which to me just shows your versatility in what you're able to create, because it still gives you exactly the same feeling as the last ones, but um, clearly a different time of year, different time of colors. So what would determine, uh, if you're doing landscapes, I can understand it. And I suppose if you're doing some of your abstract work too, what actually determines your color palette? Where do you go, okay, this is, I'm feeling this today, or is it what the landscape you're actually looking at is going to determine that?
It's kind of all of the above. So
Mm,
it's very much seasonal. So that is a spring scene where the
mm,
colors are there's more light coming down. So the landscape, the colors I see are more opaque.
yeah,
There's more solidity to it. Whereas because the light is heavier, becoming heavier. Um, and whereas in winter it's all moisture, isn't it? Everything's transparent, it's all
mm,
rainy and so on. Whereas as the seasons go on, especially in Dartmoor, the land becomes more solid, and so I then use a more opaque color. The palette changes, it becomes warmer, and I try to depict the sort of gorse and the heather and so on. But it's definitely a different uh, texture. It's more paint, more opaque, and then yeah. So Dartmoor to Moor is interpreting the seasons. You know, what a magical place! How lucky am I to live in
well,
this?
yeah, you exactly, but you could easily have said that, how lucky were you to live in Australia, to be fair. It's like, you got quite two extremes, but both
Yeah.
places are quite amazing. You got another one here, which is again
Oh, I love.
still got that atmospheric sky, but
Yeah.
a different feel to it. This is another clever picture, and there's a reason for me saying that, because shadows actually play quite a big part in making something look believable. And you, in this particular instance, I can see you got the shadows absolutely bang on right, to especially around the tree, the main tree to the slightly to the left. um, and also and I don't know whether this is well, it must be, it's probably more natural from you, but if you're a photographer, you would be using what they call the rule of thirds. You never have a horizon slap bang across the middle of a picture. You always have it in the
Yes.
bottom
Yeah.
half, all of that. All those sorts of inverted commas rules. Are you conscious of that, or is it just something?
Absolutely.
Oh, you are?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Oh, yes. So with this one, because I know myself what if I look at a painting, what bores me, and what bores me is something straight in the middle. If there's a sun right in the middle, I'm bored. Like, So with this, my aim was because I'm actually really influenced by the color field movement and Rothko and all of that. But I would like to add. But my thing is to add more of a landscape thing to it because that's where I live. So I've
Right.
got this color field movement influence, but so hence the kind of two-toned. However, what I wanted to do was have a horizon line that was slightly below the third, have the trees slightly above it, and then have the shadows kind of intermingling
Mm,
so that your eye was drawn somewhere in the middle, but not to the middle, and also have the texture of the sky and the land, which is a rapeseed field,
mm.
and also the texture of the trees. I love this. You've brought up one of my most favorite paintings, actually.
So
So,
what I find interesting here is you don't need to say that that's a rapeseed field.
oh, okay,
You've not got any individual, rapeseed plants, anything like that in there at all. And yet instinctively, because we're all used to it, I guess, you just know that that's what it is. And it's really that's again, it's quite clever because I mean, I can make this a tad bigger. So you have got a bit of texture in that bottom section of the rape fill, which is again you've used. This is funny because there's quite a few artists that I've interviewed. Unfortunately, the other one, and because I'm not on my PC, I can't bring it up. But you've got another one where you've definitely used drips within the
yeah.
picture. But look, if people can see
No,
this close
well,
enough,
I
you
can
can
kind of
see,
say it. There's
yeah,
drips forever.
yeah, you see,
It
yeah,
took
you
me a
see,
long
which is,
time.
yeah, which again, it's a clever way of doing texture. But there's quite a lot of people now who seem to use that as a texture, which I think is great. It's instead of going, oh no, I've got drips, I better get rid of those. Actually, no, I want to use that as a texture, which is pretty cool. I think it's yeah. You've what I've done basically. Look, I'm not going to be. I'm not gonna take huge
You?
amount of credit for this, but I went onto your website and basically took off all the pictures that I really liked.
Oh,
And then you sent me a selection, and I thought, well, that's interesting because you've sent me the same selection that I've actually taken off myself. Apart from these landscape ones, they were the abstracts that you
yeah,
sent through.
that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay. Mm.
but it's and I know out of all of them, I have to say, out of all of them, I'm going to go back to this one. Out of all of them, this is the one that for me has got so much story, atmosphere, broodiness all sitting in there. And I think we've had a little bit of a conversation at Flux between the two of us, and that my work's quite dark, so I love anything that's got a bit of a story, a bit of an atmosphere into it. Makes you want to know what is
Going
gives
on.
you a feeling, gives you a particular
Yeah,
feeling, doesn't
I
it?
I
Uh,
I love that painting.
yeah.
It was a bit like the band Rigid with Desire. I mean, we were the same sort of dark gothic, Wuthering Heights type
Right. Well,
music,
that's
and
we're going to talk about that actually now
oh,
because that's perfect. Perfect to
segue.
come into that. Yeah, perfect little segue. Well done. Especially if we didn't plan it. That was perfect. So, um, two bands, Fast Cars and Rigid with Desire.
Oops.
I was just while we were speaking, and I didn't want to click on it, but I've and I don't know whether it'll work. I've got YouTube up. We can bring up one of your songs, but um, just tell me this sort of We had a little chat about this. I'm going to bring it up just because I think it's flipping hilarious. Rigid with desire. Now,
Mm.
um, am I right in saying that when that name first come up, you didn't really think deeply into it, like
I
everybody
was
else probably now does?
I was in my 20s, early 20s, and our dear drummer, Andrew Southam, who may be watching, who's now an incredibly successful photographer in LA. He's photographed Ringo Starr, Lou Reed, Taylor Swift, and so on. He came up to, we didn't know about a name for the band, and he said, "Oh, I've got two. One of them was Any God Will Do, and the other one was Rigid with Desire." And I thought, oh, Rigid with Desire, it sounds like a David Lawrence, like book. Oh, it's all about the passion of love, da 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 da. So I said, let's go with that. And so we did go with that. And that's what we were called until people, we had in the old days in the 80s posters splashed along the side of, telegraph poles and everything like that. And apparently some people found it offensive to have this thing saying Rigid with Desire. And so we did record under that name. However, some people objected. And so we changed the name for the band to be Helter Skelter. And guess what happened then? They still objected because
Oh,
that's when all those murders were happening with Helter Skelter. Anyway,
oh,
the thing is, Rigid with Desire, we were a great little band. We very quickly, and I say this, and I'm quite humble, I really am, but we were a good little band and we built up a following quite quickly.
mm.
Um, and we should never have changed the name. It was a
Well,
great name.
no, but also, who did you? I don't know whether that was with Fast Cars or Rigid with Desire. Was it? Um, oh, this band began with M that you supported. Med,
Oh, Midnight Oil. Yeah.
Midnight. Oh, that's it. Yeah,
We were
Midnight
also
Oil.
involved with In Excess, but that was kind
Mm,
of a different story. But Midnight
mm,
Oil, we were invited. Well, we weren't invited. Midnight Oil's what do you call it? Agency. We're
mm,
trying to find bands to support them at gigs, and
mhm.
bands were kind of reluctant to. Midnight Oil was so big. I mean, I don't know if people in this country, it was Birds Are Burning or something like that. How, Beds Are
Yeah,
Burning.
I know that song.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they were massive I mean, really huge. As they were probably the biggest band, and no one wanted to be their support band because Midnight Oil would have their punters. The audience would have a chant that came up if there was a support band. They didn't want them. They kind of booed them off, basically. And in between the songs of the support band, they would get this chant going, oils, oils, oils. And so no one wanted to support them. And well, they approached us, which was odd because we were a very different type of band, very indie. But we needed the money, and we were with the same agency, and they said, will you do this gig? We'll pay you a load of money. And we said yes. Well, I said yes. And so what I said to the drummer was, let's do this gig. And it was a big gig. There were over 1,000 people, but let's not let the audience get the chant of. So what I said to him was, the poor man, we will not stop. You drum in between every single song so they don't get the chant up. And that's what he did. He was a lovely man.
He must have been absolutely knackered at the end of that.
I think I almost killed him. I think he was very, very close to death, but he was covered in sweat. The thing is, we went from one song straight into the other. He just tapped straight in. No chant there was no chant, and by the end of it we got like an encore,
Oh, brilliant.
unheard of, with a support band with Midnight Oil.
Yeah,
And
brilliant.
it was amazing, and at the end of it, yeah, they invited us out to dinner and everything. It was incredible. And here's a coincidence: the management of Midnight Oil were also the management of the band that that got that painting of mine onto their what do you call it? Their album, the one I showed before, Devon Red. So we're kind of
Oh, which one's that? Sorry.
Oh, did I not show it? Oh, I
No,
must
no,
have
no.
practiced it. Okay. So this is a painting that I sold at a flux exhibition, right?
Oh, cool.
Called
Yeah.
Devon Red. Here we
Hmm.
go. It's a print now because the original was sold to a
Yeah.
lovely couple from Hampstead.
Okay.
And there is a band called, God, I've completely forgotten to plug them, and I said I would. They are amazing. They used to be called Spy versus Spy. They're now called Reggae Spies, and they've
Okay.
used my painting on the front of their
Oh, how cool.
album. I know they've
Yeah.
used a few. Actually, I have to say, my art's been now used on some other music albums as well, and I kind of don't feel I don't want to really plug this, but it's so nice. Instead of just selling a painting, to have your artwork on an album cover that's just being shared around
Yeah.
with music is kind of magic. And
And I thought, well, I think, look, it comes back to me and what I was talking about Prince. Anybody that's got that album, it's got your picture. And there's probably a little bit on the back of it that says that's who the album cover's
yeah,
by, and
yeah,
therefore everybody, that's just your name building up and up and up from doing that. I've done the same. I've done album cover, and um, all right, it was a lot of work, but I just did it for a bottle of vodka because I believed the artist in the artist. She is actually features in a lot of my work anyway, and it gets your name out there. So, why spend a fortune on Facebook ads or whatever it is when actually you can get much more benefit out of producing a bit of work that everybody ends up having a copy of.
I know. And the thing is, though, I'm not very good with the sales thing. I'm really not. So just the fact that image is on their album and the
Mm,
album's getting shared, I love that. And they're great
yeah.
musicians. They're massive in Brazil. I mean, they played at thousands. Can I just put it up again because I told them I would? They're called Reggae
Yeah,
Spies.
absolutely.
Unity
Reggae
Gang.
Spies.
Oh my
And if
God!
you'd have, yeah, I
You
would
listen
have.
to this band. They are
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
I will. If there's a link to the website or anything like that, if you can let me have that, then I'll put it in the
Yeah.
blurb on YouTube. That'd be
Yeah,
good.
I mean, yeah. Anyway,
We have had a few comments on the pictures while we were talking, actually, from in particular Lee Churchill, who watches every week. He's a photographer, and very good one too. He watches every week. But talking about your landscapes in particular. So first thing he said, the contrast between light and dark is great, which
oh,
and also nice and stormy, and that'll be the one we both like, I think.
mm,
So thanks for those comments, Lee. He does. And I think he's like me in a little bit in that he's a photographer, so am I. But I find it so interesting talking to people about their art and what inspires them, and where they get their ideas from, what their techniques are, because I believe. One of the best things that an artist can do is share what they do, because then more people buy into it. And I say this a lot, and it is a bugbear of mine. When you go to an exhibition, and thankfully you, Amanda, Michelle Watson, all of you that were in that little area, Sarah
yeah,
Levin, all you,
yeah.
all of
It
you
was
were in that
magic,
area.
wasn't it?
Yeah, you had a perfect little area, the last flux. And it's fair to say, I know you and Amanda are certainly doing the next one. I should imagine Michelle is as well, and Sarah. But you talk to people, and that's the thing that an artist must do, is talk to the people that are coming to look at the work, because no one will sell your work better than you. And what people definitely I find anyway, as being interesting, is how you do it. How you actually do something is really, yeah, it's really, it becomes a bit inspirational. It becomes, you do get some people that go, God, I think I might go home and give that a bit of a try, or I might try and do this. They're not going to, this is what I say anyway, they're not going to be able to do what you do because they haven't got your brain. But you don't say to a novice carpenter, right, fit that piece of skirt in on the door frame and hang the door without showing them how to do it. And I think that, and he will probably do that completely different to somebody else. It's just the way we are. I
Mm,
think that's a lot of what art is about for me, and actually talking to your potential customers. That's what they remember. That's what they go away. That's what they take away from it. And then 2 or 3 months later, they still remember that, and they're the ones who jump on your website and buy a picture. It's,
yeah, that does seem to be what happens, that you meet
yeah,
them and they don't buy straight away, but they'll think about it, and rightfully so. They're not cheap,
mm.
and art isn't doesn't feed you, does it? It's a luxury, and I think
Doesn't
people.
feed artists either.
No, but I mean, it's not like you're going to go out shopping and go, I'll have a piece of art, and
Mm.
they people need to think about it, and it's lovely when they get back to you and say, I saw that painting, I really love it, and now I can see it in my house, and can I please have it? And yeah, no, it's a lovely feeling. I have to say, there's just something I have to say about this. I've been thinking about this a lot, that art to me is not about sales, it's about sharing. If
Mm.
someone comes up to me and says, I really love your work, I'd like to buy it. Um, Really, what it is that strikes my heart about that is that they want that piece of work in their house that they want to see. And so it's in their personal space.
Yeah.
And because I'm not starving. And so for someone to sort of say, I want your creation in my house where I'd like to see it every day, to me, honestly, that's a piece of heaven. That's sharing a vision I saw and someone
Yeah.
else saw it, be it the landscape or the abstract or whatever. But I
Mm.
think that's where I am at the moment. If someone would like to see something in their house that I worked on really hard, I love that. That to me is what it's about, you know.
It is, and I mean, you're absolutely right. I think that, and I can put this into real context. So, in 2014, I had a solo show. Didn't sell anything. The gallery was just in the wrong place. People couldn't get to it. There was all sorts of reasons why. Um, but then I was invited to take my work to Comic Con in London, as part of the Steampunk Emporium, and a woman bought a picture. It wasn't, a few £1,000s. It's not cheap. She was there with a friend's two nephews or something like that. It wasn't her kids or anything like that, but she bought it, and she actually said to me, "You're not going to be doing calendars and mugs or anything like that, are you?" I went, "No, I'm not. What on earth? Why have you asked that question?" She said, "Well, I've got a picture of a very famous artist that everybody knows, but it's in my loft because I won't have it on the wall because of that." Anyway, she's bought a few off me since as well. Now moved to India, sadly for me. Great for her. But it was the first one I'd sold. Now, the overwhelming feeling was that I'd created something that someone was prepared to put their hand in their pocket and buy. So driving up the M11 on my way home, I actually had to pull over on the hard shoulder because I was bawling my eyes out, because
Yeah,
the emotion just got to me completely. And I think you get that feeling when someone, it's not that you've sold something, and it doesn't really matter how much it is. It's the pure fact that someone wants to buy that from you and hang it on their wall. It's why
exactly.
it's why I always, where possible, I will hand deliver my picture and actually talk to them about where they're going to hang it, because it's quite
Yeah,
important. That light with my work's important because of the way it's printed. But you just get involved then, don't you? You get involved, and you're, and your passion rubs off on them, but the overwhelming sense of that someone wants to hang a piece of your work on their wall that they're going to be looking at. Uh, I think that's just stunning, actually. It's quite an amazing feeling. And I can understand exactly what you're saying. Yes, it is about sharing. And in fact, now that you've said that, that's going to form part of my next talk. Not on here, but my next presentation I'm
Oh,
doing.
yeah, I'm very
Because
pleased.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think that's something that's really
Yeah,
quite important.
it's having people that kind of relate to your work and think, I'd like to have that on my wall. And I've just noticed that someone that did buy a piece of my work has just said they love having my artwork in their house.
Yeah,
And
we've got that
honestly,
here.
to
There you
me,
go.
that is to me what it is all about. Honestly, that is my joy in this. If I
Yeah,
can go out to Dartmoor, or if I have a view of a jewel or whatever, and paint that, and someone says, "Wow, I see the same in it as what you saw, and I want to have that in my house." Isn't that what it's about? Like someone shared that. It's a sharing, and I love that. I really do.
yeah. It's quite interesting, isn't it? That and
Thank
thanks
you.
very much for that. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, thanks very much for that comment. And it adds to it, doesn't it? The fact that someone loves having your work on their wall. I think it's just it does just make such a big difference. It gives you a shot in the arm to
Yeah,
actually, you know what? I know I'm doing something right. It's not always about money. I know that the we can go look. I could have a whole night talking about struggling artists and people who undervalue their work and all that sort of thing. But um, and it's really you can't put a price on the feeling. That comment, for example, was just given you. You can't put a price on that.
no, no, that's right. That to me means everything. Thank
And
you,
that's
sir.
the same, but that's also in the same way as you're standing up performing on stage and everybody goes wild when you end the song.
Yes,
See, I had a band for
yes,
20 years. I know
exactly.
exactly the feeling that you're talking about because, unfortunately, we had to pack all the flipping band stuff up, load the van up, and get home. But I would get home completely wired because and not be able to
Yes,
sleep because
yes.
of the feeling that you get from
Oh,
performing.
I totally, totally get it. Yeah,
And
you know,
I think that's what you get when you do Flux exhibition. The reason why I say to all the artists, come every day if you can, is because it's a performance. You are standing there and you're telling people, and you might say the same thing over and over again, probably in a different way, but it's a performance because you're trying to um, you're not trying, but you're drawing them into what you do, and I think that's really and maybe that's another reason why so many musicians turn to art because they're still getting whatever's in here is still coming out.
yeah.
Well, interesting. I've already said, look, you're at it. Flux exhibition, 15th, 18th for May in Marylebone. If people have enjoyed this chat, they can definitely come along and see you and buy some more of your fabulous work.
I'll share.
Um,
Just
and
share
it,
it.
yeah, and well, I think isn't it? It's true, isn't it, that yes, we are there. I would say probably the only chance we all get to have a chat is first thing in the morning, really, because then when it gets busy, you don't have a chance to walk around and see other people's work. This is what this does for me. It allows me to talk to you about your work where I wouldn't
Oh,
ordinarily get
I
time to do that.
totally agree.
And
The thing about
equally,
Flux is that we get to meet other artists that
yeah,
from different areas, and we talk. We have that amazing dialogue and narrative, and
mm,
it's the thing. I mean, I've sold at Flux, but one of the things I love most is meeting the other artists. I
yeah.
just absolutely love it.
And that is one of the things that I particularly enjoy and always have. That I'm a people person, so I enjoy talking. And everybody that knows me will tell you that it's very difficult to shut me up, quite frankly. But I do. I enjoy talking because you find out so much about what people do. One question I didn't ask you, which has just occurred to me, um, is it canvas you're working on? Is that, and if it is canvas, do you prepare that before you start?
An interesting question, because canvas is my most unfavorite
Interesting. Yeah.
media. So I prefer cradled board, which is cradled beech board, or even paper, but more expensive to frame, or canvas board. But mainly it's what oh no, behind me. No, I actually prefer cradled wood.
We're interesting.
Yeah, it gives you more focus. Canvas is
Mm.
too soft for me. It
Yeah, yeah,
bends and I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
put the textures down.
yeah.
Um, so no, canvas is my least favorite. Paper's my first, too expensive to frame. Canvas board I love, but my most favorite is cradle board, cradle
Mm.
wood board. Yeah.
Well, it looks like our friend Paolo as well is watching, because whatever we were talking about, he completely agrees with,
He says absolutely. I can
which
see it
will be,
even
which will
without my
be,
glasses on. There we go. Thank you,
yeah,
Colin.
which will be what we're talking about the the feeling part of it and all of that. He's a great guy, Paolo. Got a lot of time for him, and he does watch every week. In fact, when I posted that this was starting up again today, he did actually put underneath he's really missed these interviews, so that's very kind of him to say so as well. Look, we've gone over the hour, unbelievably. Really does go that quick. So I will probably next see you now at Flux in May.
Looking
um,
forward to it.
I'm guessing you and Amanda will be staying up again and painting the town red every night as you did
We
last
will
time.
be the Devon contingent.
the,
Oh
Dev-
no,
the Devon
Amanda
massive.
paints the town red every night. I'm in bed by 9:30. I'm old. I'm just
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah.
looking forward to seeing you, and thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me on. I'm really
It's an
flattered
absolute
and
pleasure.
honored, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. I will stay in the. Don't go completely. I will switch you off. We'll have a chat afterwards.
Okay.
But thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. I've really enjoyed it. Absolutely love what you do as well, which is always a
Oh,
bonus. Always a
thank
bonus.
you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Right.
Thank you.
Catch you in a bit. So that just leaves me really to remind people who I've got coming up once again. So it's Kevin Governor next week, and then this one for you, Lee here, which is uh, Glenn Jewis. Got Glenn Jewis coming on the show, so he's going to be talking about other stuff that he does, which is not necessarily Photoshop or anything like that. I want to talk about he's got a fabulous collection of prints that he's done for World War II veterans, which is absolutely amazing. It's called the 39 to 45 uh, exhibition. So really something to get our teeth into. But as I said right at the start, he was has always been my mentor, and in fact, really helped me out because I needed new monitors, and his guide really helped me out with that. So see you next week with Kevin, and the following week after with Glenn. And thanks very much for watching as usual, and all your comments. There was one more which came up afterwards, which was Sarah again. That was brilliant. Thank you very much, Sarah. Really, thanks so much for watching as well. Very kind. Right. So I will see you next week with Kevin. Thanks very much.